What's up, y'all? Look at me. I'm recording before work. Aren't you proud? Change. I'm excited about our reading today. We're here for our midweek alchemy message, which basically unpacks the approach to the anchor message. The anchor message of the week is on Mondays. That's like our spiritual assignments for the week. Whereas the alchemy message talks about how we're actually approaching the work and using our experiences to help us self-reflect and transform. So here we go. So I'm excited about our cards today. I think they're really amazing. I'm not going to do the audio, but maybe I will. I'm recording this before work, so actually I can just I can edit it later, right? So I will include the audio, but we're just going to talk through, but I'm going to put the audio at the end today. How about that? All right, cool. So let's get into the cards. So from the Wild Unknown Alchemy, we've got Sun's Splendor, followed by the Blue Temple, followed by the Drowned King. And then underneath the Sun's Splendor, we have the Queen of Wands. Underneath the Blue Temple, we have the Feminine King of Pentacles. Remember, in the Mystical Moments Tarot, there are the traditional feminine queens, the traditional masculine kings, and then there's the feminine kings. It's like a separate court card. So we'll go more into why when we get there. And then underneath the Drowned King, we have the Hermit. So, you know what? I'm gonna pause here because I can still insert the audio, and then we're gonna come back. Sorry, I'm talking shop out loud, but you know, behind the scenes, this is raw, people. We are punk rock around here. This is why I can pump it out every day. All right, pausing. Wow, the cards really say it all today. The dawn of a new day comes with the death of another. The establishment of greed and dominance and exploitation is taking its final breaths. This is the death rattle of the fading darkness as the light of a new era is birthed forth in our collective awakening. A growing mass of people have already suffered through many stages of ego death and fortified themselves through many a dark night of the soul. The collective is ascending into the beginning of a new stage of consciousness. Not coincidentally that today's Zohar commentary on the Torah portion teaches us that Abraham, sitting in the opening of his tent, is synonymous with the opening the gates of righteousness, or graduating from one level of consciousness and entering, as a beginner, into a higher level of consciousness. True righteousness through sharing and self-sacrifice being transformation through ego death and rebirth, opens the gates because it contains in itself all of the dimensions and attributes of wisdom and understanding. The birth of the new requires the death and transformation of the old, night to day, dark to light. This new and glorious chapter for the many the new and glorious chapter for the many will be the beginning of a rude awakening for some. Ego death, the dark night of the soul, these are not for weak spines or the faint of heart, as we all know who have been there. The old establishment is drowning and grasping desperately at anything that can stay afloat and remain intact. That old day knows its time has come. It clings to its final moments of darkness as cotton candied hues pierce the horizon to herald a new day, a new dawn. Okay, now what I want to point out, and I think this is really amazing, there's like this collective layer going on today in the zeitgeist. And then there is it's like the macro versus the micro with the inward personal process that we also have going on. I wanted to call attention to Monday's cards because I think that this is a significant step in continuity with Monday's reading. So just for some context, this is the morning after the special elections. This is November 5th. And last night, all over the country, every race, it was reported that was one of the key turning points in each area, each state. Democrats swept the country. Like, it was a landslide. And so from school council to like as local as it gets to as big as it gets with Zoran Mamdani, hello, Mr. I can't say his name, like winning the mayoral election of New York. And it was like a landslide victory. And this is so good for people because whether, like however many of these things he's able to achieve, we'll see. But his intent is integrity for the people, making life livable in New York and not crippling. And so he wants to make sure that, he can freeze the cap on rent and provide buses as free public transportation, and even offering like universal childcare that frees up such a financial chokehold on every family with kids that has to be like, okay, well, we can't survive on one income, but we also are using most of our second income to pay for childcare solutions. So, he's trying to offer things there, having like a city-run grocery stores to, help supplement people's, to prevent food insecurity, right? So really good things. Very popular mayor amongst every belief system. People showed out to represent every religion, every demographic, every age group. So it was really cool. And all over the country, people voted for very non-traditional, grassroots, new option people that were really like platforming on, I want to serve my constituents. I want to take care of the needs of the people. I want to provide security and the conditions that can produce prosperity and goodness and equality and justice and, growth and innovation, right? When countries are doing well and everyone is able to have stability and survival taken care of and their basic needs met, there's no desperation to turn to extremism or crime even. So this is all really, really good. It's just that the extreme other side is having a very bad day. They know how it must have felt when this happened last year for the Democrats or even independents who were more, civil liberty leaning. So this is a significant shift in the human zeitgeist that astrologically we've been just waiting for and preparing for, embracing for quite a while. And so it's so interesting that the full moon in Taurus today is bringing out all of this energy of that earth mother, feminine, nurturing, taking care, making the needs met, making things more beautiful, more loving for all, more, just. This is Venus ruled themes here. So it's very exciting. So in order to move into a new era, we have to have the death of the old. In order for our consciousness to become new, we have to go through an ego death of what we believed and what we understood and what we thought about ourselves. And we have to confront our programming and limiting beliefs and find the truth, beyond all those layers that had been tacked on to each of us, right? So many of us in the masses have already been going through years of ego deaths and spiritual awakening and the discomfort that goes with that process, right? So now, all the people who have not gone through that process and are still clinging on to the old forms of, control, power, wealth, greed, security, those forms of security, the desire to receive for the self alone security, the carnal lower mind, they are having this death rattle of the ego, the collective ego in their group is having that moment where it's like, this is like everything's at stake, and it is unpleasant. And so that's where we have the drowned king right here. It's like, first we have the dawn of this new day that's going to be good and fruitful and nurturing to people and bring hope and new possibilities, and it is inclusive, right? That it represents the full spectrum of what's possible, right? Full potential in the rainbow radiance here. So we have this new day, but what happens when a day is born is that the former day has now come to a completion and it dies. So this era right now that we're in is in the final darkest hours, where the era is clinging to itself and it sees the dawn approaching and it's having a panic. And so right now, in this dawning of this new day is happening, we have the Queen of Wands here holding up the light in the dark times, right? For, the warmth of wanting people taken care of, wanting to be inclusive, wanting to make sure that everyone is taken care of, but we're also going to get business done. That is the Queen of Wands. She is the power over the warmth and the life at home and in the family, but also as a titan of industry as well. She is the woman of valor from the Proverbs. So what's interesting too about this is that the woman of valor is connected with the portion of Abraham today, the portion of the Zohar that is commenting on the Torah portion, Vaera, where Abraham is sitting at his tent, the opening, the gate of his tent. And he has just been through the circumcision that he gave himself as a sacrifice of his own flesh, which represents the carnal mind, the lower consciousness. He cut that away and separated himself and went through the pain and discomfort in order to be closer to the Creator, right? To build a covenant with God. And so in that discomfort, he's sitting there on this hot day. Well, the story goes on to say that he ran out to meet these two people walking towards his village, and they looked like people, but they were messengers of God or angels in disguise. And so it wasn't that he's old, he's 99, he's sitting there, he's almost at the end of his spiritual work, the spiritual completion being 99, right? Almost at 100. He didn't sit there lazy. He was in pain. He didn't sit there in pain. I don't feel like it. And it was a hot day, right? It was an oppressive condition where he was exposed to the elements. And instead of maintaining his shelter in his safe place, he ran to meet them, enthusiastic, meeting to greet them, as a spiritual teacher who ran to meet any people that came to him so that he could share the good news of the Creator, right? So the secret of him sitting at the tent opening, it calls to the proverb by King Solomon, that her husband is known at the city gates. Well, all of us human beings, the soul is the wife of the Creator, right? The wife of God. And so her husband is respected and known at the city gates, means that we have the relationship with God that we can perceive, that we have the ability to perceive of God, right? And so it suggests that the soul has an awakening and an understanding and a certain active and aware consciousness and an awareness and an understanding of the Creator that allows for the growth of righteousness and wisdom, right? I understand, I know God in some fashion, and God knows me back in some fashion. So it's our capacity to hold space for a greater understanding of the Creator, which comes with that greater wisdom, because the Creator encompasses all, right? So at the city gates, at the tent gates, right? Abraham sat, and the gate represents going through from one level of consciousness to the next level. It's like going through a checkpoint or an initiation, or graduating from one level as on top of your level. As an expert, you graduate, but then you enter into the next level as a beginner. But one gate leads to the opening of the next gate, and the next gate, infinitum, right? So there's always another gate. We are always opening up a new level, a new level, a new level. So having said that, and prefacing by, we are having a big group that's in an ego death right now, and this hermit card is the point that we've already been through this journey, and so it's up to us to take that healing and knowledge and embody that, so that we can hold the light and space for the others that are coming up behind us, or that, you know, we have to take turns. When some of us are down low, the other ones are high, and when others are high, others are low. And so, you know, we rely on one another. But as a collective, if you are here, it's likely that you have gone through the death of the self, and you've already seen behind the curtain, and had to question everything and come back to it again, and figure it all out in some form or fashion. So the Hermit card talks about that inward process where we face our darkness and we climb the mountain, but then we get the light at the top of the mountain so that we can bring it down and take others back up with us. And so the blue temple here is this entering into this new space, that this is the new level of consciousness, of awareness. It's higher consciousness, it's divine consciousness. Here we have the feminine King of Pentacles, the integration and mastery of both the masculine aspects of the suit, both paired with the feminine aspects of the suit. So in other words, we are entering into a new time, both on a spiritual and energetic sense, but also it's being reflected in the zeitgeist, in physical, tangible ways. The point being, look what we just saw. People came out in mass numbers to vote for a change in the way that we interact, in the way that we have community, in the way that we live, right? And we want it to be more inclusive and take care of people and get people's needs met and make sure there's enough to go around, which is biblical justice. It is making sure that everyone at least can get by and has enough to make it, right? There is enough for everyone, to basic needs to be met. And so that is we're obliged to make an effort to see that through. So the collective is coming to this consciousness by choice and embracing it. And it is, it's being reflected in real ways and in new policies, but also in our own life as well. It's like we're starting to see, oh, okay, these former ways that I, fell into these loops, they're not serving me, and it kept me stuck, and it kept me behind, it kept me experiencing more and more pain. And so instead of staying on this loop, like, I'm seeing things from a different perspective, and I have a greater capacity to govern myself, so that I can make a greater effort to show up better, right? Better for the sake not just of my own self, but for the sake of others as well. So what I wanted to call attention to about yesterday's reading was, here we have river, which is the movement happening. We have a movement that is helping us break through our current limitations and the old negative cycles repeating themselves, loop after loop after loop. And we're breaking through what we think. We're not stuck, right? These bars, right? This injustice, this repression, the suppression. It's like we're coming together and we're overcoming this conditioning, right? And the status quo, right? Even the Democratic establishment is shaken up because they're seeing that where they thought they could just, if they had more money, they would have more power and they would win the election. It's like, no, the grassroots people who actually care about their constituents and who are showing up for them, those are the ones, who are getting the votes. They're going to be winning. So it's like, either you evolve and you move with the flow of traffic, or you get left behind, right? Who Moved My Cheese, that book that is talked about in business all the time. it's like a philosophical sort of parable about, you know, not getting stuck when things are moving and changing, but having acceptance and being solution oriented and being proactive. And so the movement is happening. You know, people are feeling hopeful and they have the courage of their convictions to make change. And now it's like the storm came in and shook things up and stirred things up and cleaned things out. And the Chariot card was here yesterday to say, or Monday, you know, movements and change and forward progress, and things are moving very quickly and suddenly. Lightning strikes, suddenly things have changed overnight. You know, the scales have shifted in their balance. And so it is good, right? Victory, achievement. We had that Monday. And then the Bardo, right? This is representing the death of the old, right? The liminal space we've been in as we have been pushing forward towards something new. And so now we have the king, the feminine king of wands here from earlier in the week, shining that light in the darkness, like holding the light up for others, fighting to include everyone, and having a spiritual sense of conviction, a sense of industry, a sense of purpose, and a sense of, you know, a positive motivation and divine inspiration. So I love it. I think this is a great message for the personal cycles that we might be struggling with, meeting our own personal trials and tribulations and tests. But I think that we are facing dragons, and what we do after maybe the feeling that maybe you had an encounter that you failed a test, but how you repair and pick up the pieces and adopt your mindset in the aftermath is really the important part. And this is still, it's like you're still in the test. It's not over. So you don't have to give up and get overwhelmed and frustrated and think all is lost. It's never too late. You can just change and choose to change and transform your mindset and your belief around the situation. So I think that this is a good opportunity right now. And I think this is the power of the influence that Scorpio season has, that gives us this opportunity to come at it with conscious intention and use the opportunity, right? And as well as the kind of like vibrational impression that the Taurus full moon is having right now, to bring light into things that need more security, more balance, more safety, more beauty. Like, you know, thinking about how can we make life better for, you know, people in taking care of one another and in relating to one another, right? And how we take care of others through our material means to meet the material need. So, and then, you know, Taurus is very good at making things happen and taking action and being innovative and resourceful when they want to be. So it's about getting over our bullheadedness, and then getting over our comfort zone to get out of our spiritual laziness, and sometimes getting out of our physical comfort zone to get out of our physical laziness. So that is all for right now. After work later, I will come home and make our full moon workshop video. So I hope that I can get this edited and uploaded before work, you guys. Ciao.